I just sent it. Good evening. I'd like to call tonight's Lower Macungie Township Board of Commissioners meeting to order. If we could all please stand for a pledge of allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. For the roll call this evening, everyone who's supposed to be here is here, with the exception of Commissioner Shoemaker, who is absent this evening. We also have with us at the dais Vince Tranguch, our code enforcement / bunch of other things right now officer. We also have Doug Cisco. Doug Cisco is our brand new Public Works Director, started literally Monday. So welcome, Doug. Same color hair as the old one, but much younger. So we'll see how you feel after a month. You might not be that young. Okay, there are no agenda modifications this evening. There are no announcements and presentations. Hearings and approvals. 6.1, consideration of sewage facilities planning module for 6130 Sauerkraut Lane subdivision. Who's got this? Is this Brian? Yeah, unmute Brian.
Oh, it's me. Okay. Yeah, this is a planning module approval for the 6130 Sauerkraut Lane subdivision. If you recall, this is a 3-lot subdivision that was approved earlier in the year. There was much discussion about on-lot system versus public sewer being provided. In the meantime, Township has worked with the applicant to get them connected to public sewer for the existing house. Apparently they had a failing system. So the existing house is now physically connected to the gravity system. The planning module is necessary for the connection of that house as well as the 2 proposed lots. So this is a bit of housekeeping in that this would have needed to be done regardless, and it's in front of you tonight for approval.
Move to approve.
Okay, we have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Are there any commissioner comments or questions? Any public comments or questions? Seeing none, I will call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Item 6, public comment on non-agenda topics. Mr. Sheehan, just come up to the microphone, write your name and address, please, and then just state your name for the record.
Kevin Sheehan, resident of 6725 Steinway in Lower Macungie. I'm just here tonight to try to get an update as to a traffic request for a hazard that's been identified on Danner Road in Spring Creek Estates. I did report this over a year ago to the town of Lower Macungie Township, in which they did do a traffic study and declined to take further action. I then rebrought this to the town in June of 2024. Another traffic study was conducted and again, repeated decline to take action. These traffic studies have, through my own research, used flawed analysis to decline to take action. I have some paperwork that I'd be happy to share with you gentlemen if you'd like to take a look, that I've highlighted some areas. I've been in contact with Vince, Public Works, I believe Dennis Hinkle, who's no longer here, and then I raised the issue to Mr. Bruce Beidel, the town president. I have since been unable to be a part of the discussion around I believe a 3rd traffic study that's been conducted. I haven't been made aware of any of the difference in the parameters of this traffic study versus previous. And there are, I was been told that PennDOT has regulations as to what the township can and cannot do. I've done additional research and where I've actually considered that is not accurate. I have that in my paperwork to share with you gentlemen. The paperwork and the analysis that's already been done. I've contacted the traffic department who conducted the software that's been utilized. I've also scoped the area of where the study has been completed and discussed that with the traffic solutions. I've also contacted PennDOT who've confirmed that they do not have jurisdiction over this and the municipality has the authority to make the consideration. One thing of note is during those traffic studies, there's been higher speeds on this 25-mile speed limit roadway that intersects my house. Across the street is a popular daycare center of infants and toddlers. At the end of the street is the Spring Creek Estate Park, where children are obviously there every day. My neighbors are as concerned as I am, and I believe my other neighbors have raised this traffic study in the past and also have had decline to intervene. Speeds have ranged from anywhere over 50 miles an hour, 60 miles an hour, and one was even clocked at 88 miles an hour on a 25-mile roadway of residential and daycare. So this is something that is obviously very dear and near to me. I have a 6-month-old at home. I have neighbors and we walk the streets. Even the daycare that used to do Halloween parades on the street no longer do it because it's just a safety hazard. And I'm trying to find out what the new parameters are to this new traffic study that's being conducted. Unfortunately, Mr. Vital has refused to respond to me in timely manners. Mr. Higgins has graciously responded a couple times, but I haven't been able to be a part of the conversation, which I think is very prudent as it's somewhere I see and live every day. I'm trying to hopefully get some kind of update on it.
Thank you, Mr. Sheehan. I'll respond in regards to this, as my email stated to you last week. You're going to get an update when we have an answer. We don't have an answer yet. Well, at least the most recent time, the threshold that needs to be met for traffic change hasn't been met. But the concerns that you raised to Mr. Vital, he has extended it past the normal process and involved other people looking for a solution, one that will hopefully be acceptable to everybody. Once we have that, you will absolutely be informed. And then you'll have a chance to rebut again and take it from there. But until that time, we're not going to bring you into the conversation. It's not part of the process to bring the citizens into that conversation. We rely on the professionals that we engage with. You have expressed some concern about flaws in the system. We're trying to flush that out. It's never been a problem before in any other study we've done. You've opened our eyes to something that we're looking at, and we will continue to do so. As I said in my email, the entire board is aware of your situation. I have, told Mr. Vital, I will respond to you to things. He has a lot of things to do here other than this one issue.
Yep.
Number one being he's in the middle of a very, very difficult budget season, trying to get things done for the end of the year.
And I completely do understand that, and I respect that. As I said in my response email to you, regarding the threshold, that is a municipality decision that can be changed.
It can be.
Yes, according to PennDOT, which I'm happy to give you all the paperwork that I put together.
Again, it's not necessary. I mean, we're very well aware of what we can and can't do.
Okay.
This happens all the time. You're not the only traffic complaint we've ever gotten. Very few actually do meet the threshold, and I understand the concern. I live on a block that's 25 miles an hour that routinely people drive faster than the speed limit. I live at the top of a crest of a hill, and it was always a concern of mine when my children were younger and my neighbors' children were younger. Sauerkraut Lane, which I live off of, is also a dragway.
Yep.
The number one way to fix that is to have a police department.
Which they've actually refused to do.
Well, we're not going to, because if we did that, everybody's property taxes would explode to handle nuisance crimes. And I know that it doesn't, it's a nuisance crime. If we got to the point that we needed a police department, really needed a police department, we probably would engage somebody else before we start our own, because again, we don't want to burden the township residents with an unbelievable cost to start a police department that, in my opinion, would not be as capable as the one we have right now for crime. But yes, we're continuing to look at it, and I hope that we'll have a resolution for you in the very near future.
I do appreciate that. And my main concern was just the line of open communication. It's not like I was contacting daily, multiple times a day.
Let's be honest. You were contacting a lot. It wasn't like, maybe it wasn't daily, but it was several times a week, and looking for consistent updates on the process.
It was actually weekly because I hadn't received any response. A normal response I would expect from a town official, especially a high-ranking town official, is at least a response as to, this is where we are. This is what I can provide you an update. I was completely ignored. I've actually shown up here to try and meet with him in person and make an appointment of what would be acceptable time frame for him. I wasn't even granted the opportunity to make an appointment. I was told he makes his own schedule and he'll contact me when he's ready. My wife came
I know.
and she spoke with Renee,
Mhm.
and Renee was very welcoming. and
Well,
opening,
but
and
your
we-
wife also came and said that it was a personal matter she was here for. She wasn't coming to schedule an appointment on official business.
And in my wife's eyes, the safety of me
I
and my
understand that,
child
but-
is very personal.
But it is a little, I would say, not completely
Misleading.
honest to say that it's a personal
Would
matter.
you also say it's not appropriate for a town official to completely ignore a citizen?
I would
who's
tell you that I
trying to
think
Do something right.
his responses to you have been appropriate, and they're not going to be every time. They can't be every time.
And I haven't even expected that. And I've explained that. It's been non-existent. That's the issue that I feel so
Mhm.
unfortunately upset about.
Sure.
Right. And that's why I've tried to follow the proper guidelines. I've tried to follow the proper protocols. I'm now here at the meeting to try and have an open discussion, and
Right.
I'm not trying to hide or ask for any leverage over anything other than what I feel is confirmed safety hazards, even with the thresholds that we currently have without altering any of them.
Mhm.
We're within 4 miles per hour of that 10-mile-an-hour threshold. PennDOT even says municipalities have to look at their own local streets.
Correct.
One across the street from a daycare with infants and toddlers.
Mhm.
If someone's doing 88 miles an hour down that roadway or 60 miles an hour, this roadway is less than a quarter of a mile.
Mhm.
People have to be taking zero regard for public safety
Absolutely.
to get to those speeds.
Absolutely.
And it's not just a single it's a common occurrence. It's not such a nuisance that you've mentioned.
No, I
It's
understand
more
what you're
of a
saying.
common safety problem.
And I'm not calling it a nuisance. I'm saying speeding, noise complaints, those are considered nuisance
I
crimes.
understand them categorically,
Yeah.
yes. But to bring the human element into this, the cost versus, God forbid, what were to happen, a child or a person were to be gravely injured or even killed, the cost analysis greatly outweighs trying to take some type
Right.
of intervention preemptively.
Well, and here's the thing, it's not a cost analysis problem. We've gone way beyond the normal process because of your consistent concern. So we're
I don't know
spending more
what
money.
I don't understand what we've done beyond beyond what
You
we've done.
submitted a complaint. We went
Yes.
through the process. It was denied. That's
Correct.
the end. Well, we did a second one.
Yep.
Now we've engaged the traffic engineer because you're consistently saying our studies are flawed. Okay, we're
Which they've
taking
been
your word
proven.
for that.
Yeah, they've been proven.
Well, no, they've been proven because you spoke to somebody at a traffic company. They haven't been proven to us. And they may be. But let me ask you this question, and I mean this in all sincerity. We dropped the speed limit to 15 miles an hour. Okay?
I don't think lowering it is the answer.
Okay.
If that's what you're.
I'm just saying,
Yeah.
that would be one consideration.
Yep.
It's not going to stop somebody from driving 88 miles an hour in a 15-mile-an-hour speed.
Speed
zone.
humps would.
Maybe.
Statistically occurring,
Mhm.
according to the common traffic guidebook from PennDOT, which again, I'm happy to provide you because I've outlined all this information. I've done multiple hours of research.
I know.
The traffic calming guidebook has steps that are taken that are proven to reduce speeds, proven by the Pennsylvania State DOT. Those are options that are not even they're $1.5 to $3,000 per speed hump.
Again, you're bringing up money. This isn't a money situation.
Then I
this-
don't understand why.
This is a policy situation.
Policy.
This is
Understood.
policy. We have a policy.
Yes.
We adhere to that policy.
So-
In this instance, we're working outside that policy because of your insistence, because we're taking your concern seriously. And I'm hoping that the response that we come up with, or whatever we can work out, will meet to your satisfaction.
Can I ask a question about your policy? With the concern to the threshold?
Mhm.
Does it take into account the environment? Or is it just a 10-mile-per-hour threshold, no matter where it is in the county?
Bruce?
Go ahead, Vince. You chair the committee on traffic safety.
I'm sorry, Bruce.
You chair the committee on public safety and
Yeah, so-
administer the policy.
So we took that as across the township, right? And we took those guidelines from PennDOT when
Correct.
we formed the traffic concern policy in 2019. So we went by guidance through PennDOT, and the 85th percentile of the 10 miles an hour is township wide.
Okay, so there's no accountability for if there's a daycare with infants or if it's on a state highway. There's no difference at all of how you look at it.
Well, we don't regulate state highways.
Well, or
It
a
wouldn't,
county
it
highway.
wouldn't, but it's not in the traffic concern policy.
Well, according to their traffic calming guidebook, that maybe higher than many municipalities consider acceptable criteria of 5 to 7, and it has to be taken into account the traffic conditions and local street guidelines. So in their own guidebook, I would say your policy is not following the true letter of what the guidebook for the PennDOT is
Okay.
stating. Would that be a fair assessment? If
No,
it's a flat across the board?
I think it's more a fair assessment that what PennDOT told you is that we set the guidelines for our roads.
Mhm.
It's not based on PennDOT's guidelines.
Didn't he just say it was?
He said that's what it says, and that's what we try to adopt
Oh, I
but-
thought you just said that you based it off PennDOT's guidelines.
about the 10%.
Correct. Not the entire policy is not written word for word for the.
It's not
based on-
correct.
It is
okay.
not word for word for the Pennsylvania guidelines.
So your guidelines is regardless where it is in the township, it's 10 mph threshold, no matter of where or what environmental impacts it could have.
That's correct.
Okay. Do we think that should be,
Kevin, I'm going to stop you there for a second, just because
Sure.
this really isn't supposed to be a back and
I
forth.
totally understand that and I
It's supposed
respect
to be
the
a
fact.
statement,
you
and
have
I'm
it.
trying to give you the opportunity, as we do with anybody.
I do.
What I would tell you at this point is that we're going to continue studying it, and as
Okay.
soon as we have an answer, promise you, you're the first one's going to know.
I appreciate it. And I respect the time and allowing me to come up
Yeah.
here. And would it be okay just to provide you this so you
Yeah,
can
if
look
you
at it for
under-
your own records?
If you leave it with Ms. Flexer over there,
Okay, yeah, I have multiple
provide it to the
copies
board.
for whoever would like to look at it or read it.
yeah, she'll provide it to all of us,
Okay, thank you very much for your
Thank
time.
you,
I do
Kevin.
appreciate it.
or Mr. Sheehan, I should say. Are there any other public comment on non-agenda topics? Okay, moving forward. Communication, Mr. Beidle.
Thank you. We have two items this evening. Ms. Julie McDonald, statement of interest for the vacancy board, and Richard Zayats, statement of interest for the zoning hearing board.
Thank you. There are no appointments to various boards, committees, and commissions. Item 10, approval of minutes from previous meeting, October 17th, 2024.
Move to approve.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Are there any commissioner comments or questions? Any public comments or questions? Seeing and hearing none, I will call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Bill list, Mr. Beidle.
Thank you. We have the following for your consideration. General fund, $295,177.49. Solid waste fund, $450,821.54. The sewer fund, $615,103.36. The capital projects fund, $487,610.83. The open space maintenance fund, $136,891. The payroll, $278,786.27. Developer escrow, $22,188.44. For a total of all funds, $2,286,578.93.
Move to approve.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Are there any commissioner comments or questions? Any public comments or questions? Seeing and hearing none, I will call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And as always, our full bill list is available on our website for anyone to review. Departmental matters, engineering, Mr. McAdam.
Nothing to report tonight, Mr. President.
All right, any questions for the engineer? Planning, Mr. Tranguch or Mr. Beidle?
I have nothing.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. President. Just a short report tonight. So I just want to go over the agenda real quick for next week's Planning Commission meeting. We have 4 items on the agenda, 3 old business items. 1 new business item is a residential sketch plan. So we'll be distributing the agenda tomorrow. If there's any questions, feel free to reach out. We're just, this week, staff was preparing mailings and postings for the Hamilton Square conditional use hearing, which will be held in front of the commissioners November 21st. We had no appeals submitted for the zoning hearing board this month, so we will not hold a zoning hearing board. And again, we will distribute an agenda, just noting that there are no appeals as well. Last thing we're doing, we're just preparing the planning commission zoning hearing board meeting and submission deadline calendar for 2025. We want to get that out in the next 2 weeks so that applicants are prepared for the December, January meeting. All I have to report.
Okay. Any questions for Vince? Okay, Solicitor Berman.
Briefly, both the appeal in the Western Lehigh conditional use case and the appeal in the 3500 Brookside case have now been argued before the court in the Lehigh County Court of Common Pleas. So we're awaiting decision.
Questions for the solicitor? Okay, Township Manager, Mr. Beidle.
Thank you. So we had several budget meetings to review the proposed 2025 budget. Out of those meetings, we took feedback from the board to address certain items that we wanted to look at. What I prepared for the board this evening, and we distributed, is kind of a highlight and overview of where those items were that needed addressed. So the process, we have to have our formal budget ready for our reading at our next meeting. Just a quick review. We're holding the line on taxes for 25, as well as sewer rates for next year. The garbage rate, of course, is set from our recent garbage contracts, so that rate will also stay where it is. And then just some highlights. We did make an adjustment. You'll see on your second page to 01459538, which was to remove that $26,000 from that general fund line item, bringing us to 14,026,825 for expenses. The capital projects fund, we did as well look at several projects. You'll see the addition of line item 30,493,631 for lowers and blowers for the adjustment of adding the requested lawn care equipment. The reduction in 30,493,638 of park improvements. That is the lighting project for Quarry that was removed. The revised number 84,500 is for the necessary roof replacements at Church Lane Park. We also made an adjustment in 30,493,641 to add 60,000 for the compost center actual building utility. And you'll note in the revenue side of the capital projects fund, item 30,392,190, not doing the proposed lighting project at Quarry. It was necessary that we subtract 300,000 for a transfer from the developer's impact fund. So you will see the original fund, accounts and projects that were adjusted of 1,074,500 down to a $263,000 difference. We've also identified those items, the 1, 2, and 3 side of what they are, the vent track, removing the Quarry Park lights, and the additional utilities for the compost building. So the projected expenses of the capital budget, our original proposal was 3,819,700, with the reduction of the light project, 3,256,700. I would note too, the rec department at its Parks and Rec meeting did have a discussion with LMYA about the use for lighted versus non-lighted fields. I know there was a question from the board about what could be currently used or what kind of programming is out there. This was a quick response from a discussion at that meeting. I also attached that for your review. We are working, as we heard the concerns about the potential rent and leases at our various township facilities. We're working with our vendor to review where we are on those, make sure that we're in an appropriate area. At this point, we believe that we still are, but we're waiting for some additional analysis. There was also a request on the sewer side to make the adjustment of 55,700 to remove that from the capital projects. I didn't show that or reflect that at this point, as our capital projects will be opening next week for our bid. So I believe that we'll have some adjustment one way or another before that final budget comes before you. Well, the draft final budget on the 21st of this month. So I think we captured the categories that were, discussed thoroughly at our last workshop. Wanted to see if there's any questions from the board or things that we didn't get addressed so that we can move forward.
Okay, questions for the manager about the budget?
But did you mention the pool? We gonna talk about the pool.
I didn't mention the pool. I can put together items from the pool. There was a discussion about what the costs of the pool are, what the membership is, and the trips generated from members for residents versus non-residents. I do have those numbers from recreation. I can always pull those up for you. I think even with dailies plus members, I'll find the visits. I think we're around still like 1 to 3% on residents.
Anything else for the manager? Okay. I'm just going to make a couple comments. Obviously, I was not here for the last budget meeting. So I'm aware of the requests, the change requests made. None of them are, I think, crazy. And, while I don't agree with them, it's certainly not something that I'm going to fight over, knowing how the budget works and how limited resources are. I will say that the lighting for Quarry Park, now we're pushing this down the road to the third year. It was in the budget last year and the price came back higher than budgeted. So we moved it to this year and now we're moving it again. I think that's a mistake because it's just going to continue to escalate and most likely only get more and more expensive. From this crossing guards, I've always been in favor of keeping our portion in. I know there are board members who aren't. I would say my compromise situation would be to make it 13 instead of 26 so that we don't put undue pressure on the staff, considering that our budget cycle and the East Penn budget cycle are separate. They base their budget off of our contribution, which means they're not going to have it for the second half of their budget. But again, not a hill I'm looking to die on. And that's it. Those are my comments. Is anybody interested in amending the crossing guards from 0 to 13,000? Anybody?
I support that.
And that would be a no, Bruce. So everything you have here is good to go.
And I will pull those numbers. I apologize. I'll make sure that we have them so the board can see them. Trying to look for them now, but
Commissioner White.
I did
Like-
have some notes, but
No, go ahead.
just for the record, we do give a lot to East Penn School District. And I got my notes from the last time, we support them with Church Lane use.
You want to use the mic?
Yeah, both mics.
We support them with Church Lane use. We support them with Camp Olympic Parks, Lower Macungie taxpayers. The last time we talked about this provides $80 million from local property tax and earned income taxes as received by East Penn School District. Lower Macungie Township taxpayers fund a great percentage of the monies that come from East Penn School District communities. So, cutting this, it's not like we don't support East Penn.
Oh,
We
no,
do
no,
greatly.
No, and I would be
And
all in
we
favor.
don't raise the taxes every few years,
Right, I would be in favor
or
of
every
cutting
year.
it all next year. It's more the
right?
inconvenience, and that's all.
It's inconvenience, but this is our budget now. It's not
Completely
their
understand.
budget. And just so it's clear, we do support East Penn
Mhm.
greatly. And then if I'm wrong in anything like it, as I said,
Not at all.
would appreciate somebody telling me.
No, you're absolutely right. Anything else, Commissioner Biden?
Well, the lights,
Mhm.
I know that's something that you talked about it. I went back there at night and in my opinion, do you think we should concentrate on lighting that roadway up in the parking lots first before we light fields up?
Well, I think it has to be kind of a combined effort,
But we have so many fields lit up already, and you're like
got-
walking through the dark zone to get to the field. I just think that would be
Sure.
more important safety factor than sticking the money in another field yet when we're walking through darkness to get to them.
Yeah, well, I mean, you'll remember lighting the parking lots in the road was part of a much bigger project that went away. But you're right, they have to be done. I mean, there's a lot of work that has to be done to that park. Totally. I mean, the park is an eyesore. It's an absolute dump. It's as a reflection on this township, it's horrendous. And that's not just that there's only 2 fields that are lit, and they're the only 2 fields that are lit in this entire township. But the fact that it's an eyesore. I mean, you have a parking lot that has curbing that's broken out. You have split rail fence that is amazingly inadequate. You have signs in the parking lot that I can tell you were up 21 years ago when I got here, and they're still the same signs. The ones that are up, because some are hanging upside down. We still have 50-gallon drums used as garbage cans. We can't paint the base of the flagpole. You know, we can't mulch the beds. We can't do anything. So there's a lot that has to go on there.
Right.
And again, I'm not arguing to put the lights in or not. I just think at some point, in order for us to keep the standard that we are, I would say, on par with other communities, that's an area where we're drastically falling behind. And we've been behind for a long time. You know, there was a point in time in this township where, you know, we didn't have lights on fields because we didn't know how to change the light bulbs, which is, you know, crazy to think because we couldn't get up high enough. We wouldn't put lights because we couldn't change the light bulbs. Well, now you're talking about field usage that is off the charts. It also, you know, in the last year or so, we've started to see actual revenue from rentals of our fields, with better cooperation from LMYA in their scheduling and their communication with a change in leadership. So again, we're limiting ourselves from actually generating revenue where we could that could help offset some of these costs without raising taxes. But as I said, I fully understand the concern, and I share that concern when it comes to that. My fear is that we're going to get to the point where all of these things are going to cost so much money that we're just never going to do them. And then having 29 parks doesn't really make a difference.
One more comment.
Yeah.
The field there is another field we lit up behind Hunan Springs. The baseball field.
The softball field behind
Yes,
Hunan
yes,
Springs.
Yes. By Costco. But
You're
that's
right.
not on
You're
here.
right.
But anyway,
You're
that
right.
parking
It says
lot,
West Coast Field that they don't.
that parking lot is well lit
Upper-
up. It has
Mhm.
beautiful walkways to it.
Sure.
And I know when we went to the opening, you were there.
Yeah.
It's a pretty state-of-the-art system.
Oh, it's a great system. But again, remember, it's one field for one purpose.
Correct.
It only can be used for softball, and it's only used for softball. When you talk about a flat field that can be used for multiple sports at multiple times, the amount of money that we're asking people to, or I would say, that is being spent on portable lights, and not even the money so much as the look, you know. And again, that's not even that's a safety issue. You know, when I used to do football at the middle school, we had to bring in 8 lights every year for 3 months. 12 weeks. And we had to reserve one of them for the walkway from the field to the parking lot because it was so far. And there's nothing. I mean, they don't have plumbing, they don't have sewer, they don't have electricity. I'm just saying this is going to be part of a much larger conversation down the road on how we wind up paying for the things we need to pay for. You know, and I bring this up because as I'm looking at the budget and I'm looking at other townships' budgets, you know, Upper McCungie Township has a unbelievable amount of money in the bank, which is great. And they can keep their taxes low, which is super. The one thing we have to remember is they also have about 200 warehouses, which is something that our residents asked us to get rid of, and we did, and it's not in our zoning anymore. The amount of money they generate from those warehouses is astronomical. So they're always going to have that funding source. We've chosen not to because it's what our residents have asked us to do. We're also have been asked to preserve more land, which we're doing aggressively, mostly through a tax the citizens voted on. But again, when we preserve that land, which I believe is the right thing to do, you also limit your revenue sources. there's no property tax on those lands ever. There's no transfer tax when things get sold. So the money that we can generate where it doesn't cost the residents anything, we've limited ourselves. And that's, I don't know if it's good, bad, or indifferent. It is what it is. And I think we have a great quality of life here. I just hope that we continue to invest and keep moving that direction and doing the things that make a difference here.
Oh, no, I agree. And then I'm so happy with the open space in the library. We put it to the taxpayers to make that decision.
I love it. I think it was great.
They decided to pay additional monies, additional tax, so the township can preserve open space.
One thing I think is really interesting, I mentioned this to somebody the other day. When we had to fund when we funded the library, their line item was about $600,000 a year. The tax has taken care of that. Where's the $600,000? It doesn't seem to have helped our budget anywhere. Like, it's all of a sudden all the things that we couldn't do, we started doing now, and we're still short on money. I look at these townships right now that are putting in fire taxes. I mean, look at what we spend on our fire department, which it's excellent, and it's what we need to do for safety reasons. I still sometimes think that, in certain states, we could just let it burn down because nobody lives there and there's nobody next door. But I get the importance of it, and we have a first-rate fire department. But again, it's a huge, huge investment out of our general fund, which again is solely funded by a 0.5% income tax. That's how the town is funded from an operating standpoint. It's 1% income tax, but again, to your point, half of it goes to the school on top of their very high property tax. So, what I will tell you that I'm working on, I'm hoping to do starting in January, tax seminars here, kind of an open house, kind of a forum to help educate our citizens and our residents exactly what their taxes are, how much they pay, and who they pay it to. I think that's a very big issue here, that we get one big tax bill and everybody figures, okay, we pay a lot in taxes. Well, in reality, we pay the township very little. Yes, there's an open space tax, which was voted in by the residents. There is a library tax voted in by the residents. Property tax, I say this all the time. Our property tax is a membership fee. In reality, if you pay $300 a year on your property tax, that's a lot right now. And that all goes to capital projects. So, we look at the list of capital projects that we have in every year. I think the more interesting list is the list of capital projects we cannot do because there's no money there. And then you have your income tax, which is 1%. But again, I think it's misleading. It's 1%, but you don't pay Lower McCounty Township 1%. You pay half to the township and half to the school district. So we're going to try to do those. We're going to try to do, informational sessions. We're going to record it. We're going to put it on the website so people can see it who can't come out. Hopefully there's an interest, and we'll do it month after month. Somewhat along the lines of what we did for the trash, trying to keep it talking about it all year, because I think it's important that everybody understands what it costs to live in this township.
It is important because that'll reduce the questions to
Yep.
all of us sitting here.
Mhm.
Because a lot of people believe that giant school
Yeah.
tax
Is us.
is us, and it
Mhm.
is not.
Absolutely. Okay. Any other questions on the budget from the board?
I would note I have the number for the memberships.
Mhm.
So, including family memberships, everybody, but an actual card holding person, we have 716 residents, 96 non-residents. So you're talking about 2.1% maybe the population.
Thank you. Any questions for the manager on anything other than the budget? Okay. Bruce, is there any old business this evening?
There is not.
Any new business?
Just an executive session, if the board's available.
That's a whole separate category, Bruce. Would you like to just run the meeting?
No, good.
Board of Commissioner reports. The next board regular meeting is November 21st, 2024 at 6 PM. The next board workshop is November 25th, 2024 at 6 PM. One other thing under Board of Commissioners reports, just not that he's going to have a whole lot to say or a whole lot of information, but Doug, why don't you, give a little intro to yourself and also tell us everything you've learned in your first 4 days.
Yeah.
How much time you guys got? No, I just want to say, thank you, Mr. President. Thank you.
Just pull the microphone a little closer because it's recorded.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Board. I just want to say, thank you for this opportunity. I'm excited to be here. Last couple of days have been, whirlwind, learned a lot of things about the township. It's a great township. Great facilities, great parks, great roads. Of course, your discussions tonight, there's always be improvement and everything. I'm excited to be here. Like I said, great facilities, park, the people, the staff's been great. Like I said, I'm really excited. It's overwhelming, but we're going to move forward with it. So thank you for the opportunity.
Excellent. Well, thanks for moving all the way out here. I think Bruce is starting to try to stack this place with Western Pennsylvania people, but that's okay. We want to teach you how the other half live. Item 15, there will be an executive session immediately after this meeting to discuss personnel. And with that, we are adjourned.
Good night, everyone.
Good night, Brian.